Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Hook, where John, Dave and myself are going to look back over Ireland's victory against France the weekend, all the other Six Nations action, and of course look forward to the big showdown in Cardiff next Saturday against Wales. So boys, 24-14 against France, but France were very ordinary, weren't they?
Yes, that's a good Australianism there. Everything is great in Australia, and if it's really shit, they say it's ordinary.
Pretty ordinary, mate.
So, if it's good, it's awesome. So yeah, they were shocking. I can see Italy turning them over next week. That's how bad they were.
Yeah.
And we thought they'd have a bit of consistency because they picked the same team for the second week in a row for the first time in I don't know how long. They normally at least rotate their halfbacks or do something crazy. At least they didn't put wingers at whatever centres on the wing and
Scrum has thrown the ball in.
Scrum has thrown the ball into the line out. So yeah, I think we played reasonably well. A lot of players had good games. It was probably our best game in many ways, but we're still a bit off where we would like to be. We'll see when we come up against the tournament leaders next week how we get on. But I was impressed. Did James Ryan get man of the match? I didn't see a lot of the. He was incredible. Somebody had a gif up earlier of him making a tackle behind their goal line on his knees, and he's kneeling down now. It was only a scrum half, but he flattened. How do you get momentum on your knees? But he can.
Phenomenal,
he's a freak of nature. Go ahead, yeah.
No, in a way, it's kind of hard to know what to say about the game because the scoreline doesn't reflect the game in a way, in many ways, because we absolutely
so many chances
all over the place. We destroyed them in every, and then they get 2 late tries. Admittedly, when Joe Schmidt had emptied the bench to in preparation mainly, I'd say for next week, we didn't take some of the chances we had. But it's very hard to be critical when you grew up like us, kids of the 80s, as it were, and we never saw Ireland.
John 70s.
Well, John 70s. It doesn't matter because we never saw Ireland. We rarely saw Ireland competitive against France. We certainly never saw Ireland beat France.
Yeah.
And we certainly didn't see Ireland, everywhere except the scoreboard, completely hockey France. I mean, that was one of the worst performances by France against Ireland I've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure.
They were in our half for 5 seconds. Or sorry, 22 for 5 seconds in the first half.
Yeah, and they knocked the ball on. So, what are you going to do?
Laugh.
But when there was some very good, there was some very, very positive and good things about our performance.
Yeah.
Some not so good. You mentioned Ryan Henderson. I thought was great.
Yeah.
Larmour was good going forward. Still a few questions on his defence and even under high balls. Ringrose just thought he was brilliant. But then he made a few fumbles as well. But it was his first game back for a while.
There was a bit where Larmour was up near. He did a load of jinx, got up near the end of the ground we were in, and just if he'd run straight on the last bit, he probably would have scored. But he kind of hesitated and went to step.
I think that's the inexperience
Yeah.
of Larmour. That sometimes he doesn't just put the foot down. Sometimes a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points.
Yeah.
So he'll learn.
He wants to beat the defender the second and third time nearly.
He'll learn.
Go back to the 22 and start again and beat them all again, and then score.
Yeah. Do you know? I was looking at the statistics on the Six Nations website, and only 3 French players made more than 10 meters.
Wow.
Bastro 27 meters, and Bamba 13 meters, and another fella 34 meters. Do you know what I mean? Everyone else was 0 meters, 3 meters. They just never got the ball.
Their back row was. I know they had to change one of their back rows earlier, but it was nowhere to be seen. Picamoles, did you hear? I didn't see the match on the telly, but did you hear his name in commentary?
No.
He was
anonymous.
I couldn't believe it. He is a great player. He wasn't let near the ball, I think.
But even at the start of the match, you saw Larmour, it was probably within the first couple of minutes, it sort of set up the possession for best try.
It set up the remaining 39 minutes of
exactly. But the amount of space, it was kind of a carbon copy of the match against England. There was no one in their backs to defend, and there must have been an acre of green grass that Larmour had to choose from.
Yeah.
And it was a great kick right into the corner.
It didn't even need to be a great kick because there was so much space that even I could have found I could have found green grass there, you know,
Yeah.
because
You couldn't have kicked it that far.
I
Dave,
probably
be
couldn't have
honest.
kicked it that far. But the thing is, I mean, that, like you say, that's a problem that France had before, and they did nothing about it. I mean, they obviously did no preparation whatsoever, because if they had, they would have that would have been fixed. I mean, it was a problem that was highlighted in the England game. It's been highlighted in other games. I mean, Scotland found green grass against them as well. But look, I've been saying it for a while. The French national team is on its way down to tier 2 status.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Like, I heard the Eddie Jones, you know, being a bit flippant as usual, but he kind of said, oh, it might be time the Six Nations looked at relegation. And, do you know, like, France could be vying with Italy. Like, as you said earlier, there's a great possibility that Italy could beat France in Rome next weekend.
Italy will still come last though.
Okay, maybe they will, but I'm just saying, like, France are that kind of, they're really in the also-rans, you know.
France have 6 points. I think Scotland have 2. So even if they lost 200-0 to Italy,
Fair
they're
enough,
still
but I'm
last.
just saying, you know what I mean? Like, they're down at the bottom end, like, they're barrel scrapers now.
I mean, you look at it this way: France has a full-time professional league that's long established. There's a lot of players to pick from. A lot of good players. We see them playing, and they're good players.
There's 28 professional clubs.
Yeah, exactly. And you compare that to Italy. I mean, you'd have to say that, taking everything into account, France are a far worse team than Italy, because they have all the advantages that Italy don't have. But are they any better than Italy? No. I mean, it's they're not getting any bang for their buck whatsoever. I mean, they're a dreadful team. A French team based on the platform that France have. Now you can argue about whether it's between the Union and the LNR and all that kind of malarkey, but you should be able to find, if you're 28 professional teams, as you say, you should be able to find not only 15 players, because I'm not necessarily sure that the players are the problem. You should be able to find a coach.
Yeah, but the only thing is, right, you know how political things are in France. And
Oh, yeah,
you see Laporte, his history of where he's come from, been in the government, and now back in charge of French rugby. They're hosting the World Cup in 4 years' time. They went out and they practically bribed other nations to
they bought the World Cup.
to host it over Ireland and whatever. Like, there's no way that they're going to allow a situation that their team is crap and going out of the pool stages.
No, they're building for 2023. How they're going to do it from where they are. But,
But like they have the player base. They have,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? They have the numbers. It's not like that they're working like with Scotland with 2 pro teams or Italy. They have an enormous amount.
have
of
they
talent.
ever had
they
a
have
non-French
it.
coach?
No. They have the talent as
I
well.
think that might be the key.
Of course they
Because,
do.
I mean, you look at the current under-20 world champions. Guys like, what's his name, Penno and Entamac and Bamba were on the team that won the world championship.
Mm-hmm.
So the talent is there, but the problem is once those guys get into professional setups, you can't skate by on talent alone. And the problem is that they kind of have to, because I mean, everybody jokes about Bernard Jackman at Grenoble and the desserts trolley, but that's a prevalent attitude in French rugby. They're so far behind, for want of a better phrase, the Anglo-Saxon Hibernian world in terms of professionalism and preparation.
Isn't that why they got Philippe Saint-André in? Because he'd been coaching in England for years and years, and he was supposed to knock them into shape.
Yeah, but he was
playing.
coaching English players in England.
I know
Who were
that.
prepared to make those sacrifices that the French players don't appear to be prepared to make.
I heard. I can't remember who. I was on News Talk and they were just talking about a former Munster player who's now coaching in France. I can't remember.
Mike Prendergast probably.
Might have been him, right? But anyway, he basically was told, whatever club he was coaching, they said, look, he wanted to try and bring pragmatism and professionalism, what he had learned and seen in his days in Munster, into the French team. And he basically said, we aren't Munster. We will never be Munster. So why are you trying to instill this professionalism into our, when we don't want to accept it? And that was
Fair
it.
enough. Be shit then. We don't care.
That was their attitude. Do you know?
Yeah, there is a systemic issue in French rugby that exhibits itself with the national team, and we saw it at its starkest on Sunday. If they go to and they lose to Italy quite badly, then you could find that there'd be some kind of revolution, but I don't think so. They've lost games badly before. I mean that was another humiliation against England. Nothing changed. Even their tactical approach to the backfield didn't change. So
Yeah, the only thing that I suppose is when they do see it, after next week, and they look at the table and they're second last, let's say, that they're going to have to say, well, look, we're just not functioning. We have to have a root and branch fix of this problem.
Unless they lose to Italy, they won't be second last, because Scotland have not won in Twickenham since 1983. Would you believe?
Yeah, but if they lose it, that's the point. If they do lose to Italy,
But there's a very good chance they lose.
and there's a very good chance they lose to Italy based on current form. If they lose to Italy, which they've lost to Italy before, but this would be kind of the cherry on the cake of humiliation that they've had this season.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was Brunel coach in
He was
Italy
Italian coach at the
when
time,
they beat France? I think he was. So wouldn't it be funny if he was the coach that was on the other side of the ledger this time?
Yeah, but for years we used to watch New Zealand hockey, all the other countries, particularly Ireland, and there was very little the New Zealand press would be singing their praises rather than knocking the opposition. You can only play what's in front of you, and Ireland demolished France,
absolutely,
except on the scoreboard. However, the downside is we did lose the second half 14-7. Where we didn't, I think you need to. I think the only or one of the sort of in the negative column of when you're analysing that game is we seem to take our foot off the gas and
once we got the bonus point,
our throat. We just I know they brought on but the whole point of these games is we're out of the Six Nations. We're probably not going to win it unless a fluke result happens, and then it's time that the fellas that are coming on, like you take Cian Healy off, with 30 minutes to go, the guy coming on has to be there and thereabouts at Cian Healy's level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the subs bench was an exercise in squad deepening, because the guys who are on the bench, I wouldn't have thought personally are Ireland's first choice replacements in certain positions. I mean, there was no Jack McGrath, there was no Sean Cronin, there was no Andrew Porter. Obviously, Ty Byrne wasn't available. You'd normally, if everyone was fit, you'd have Henderson maybe or Byrne on the bench or both.
Yeah.
And they didn't have those as subs because some of them had started. Obviously, Josh Van der Fleer got injured very early, so you didn't have a back row substitution really to make. You could argue that Marmion or Luke McGrath weren't available. Joey Carberry wasn't available. Robbie Henshaw wasn't. So a lot of the guys that you'd kind of regard as your subs weren't involved for various different reasons. One of partly injury and partly, I think, in not an exercise because but as part of a process of squad deepening.
Oh yeah, you'd have to think so. Like with it's arguable that Jack McGrath has slipped behind Dave Kilcoyne because it's a few matches now. It wasn't just the one, and it's arguable that Jack Carty is ahead of Ross Byrne. I know Ross Byrne got into the. I know you don't think so, but I know Ross Byrne got into the squad, but he didn't get onto the bench. Whether it'll be himself or Carberry next week, we don't know. There's a few of those that are, don't think anyone's ahead of Sean Cronin for the bench. I mean, he's, apart from everything else, he's such a great impact player. As everybody says, it's almost like saying which French team is going to turn up. It's as much of a cliche to say Sean Cronin is an ultimate impact player. Sean O'Brien too. There's another guy that you would imagine will be sewn into the number 20 jersey, can come on in any of the three positions and get medieval on their ass when needed. So yeah, I think that you're bang on, Dave, in terms of our deepening of resources. So if these guys do need to be subs for the World Cup or even for some of the
warm-ups,
let's call them lesser matches in the World Cups, they're there and they're ready and they're in the system and they're So yeah, good man, Joe.
Do you have the tries
I do,
today?
Jason.
Excellent stuff.
Shall we watch some of them?
Go on. Yeah, I thought this was going to be the start of a great. We didn't succeed with them all again after this. And in fairness, Best did a lot of that on his own at the end.
Well, you had help from a certain Mr. Ryan as well. In fairness.
What is this foot in touch?
No. It was a lovely finish, actually.
Was. He had a bit to do, like he was a few yards out. But when I saw that go in, I thought, here we go. We're going to score a few of these, and we went for the corner an unmerciful amount of times. Did we convert any more of them? No, I think that was it. We didn't maul them. We might have got over, but we didn't. It didn't result in a try.
I thought his foot hit the line. Anyway, it doesn't matter really.
I don't think so. Certainly not towards the end, anyway.
So that's going to be his last Six Nations game in the Aviva, and it's Joe Schmidt's last Six Nations game in the Aviva.
Bit of history there. I think he had his kids on the field afterwards.
I think they all did actually.
Yeah.
Seemed to have...
Well, it's the last home game of the season,
Yeah.
so it's fairly traditional that they do that.
Here's another maul.
It's the Sextons.
Watch the line that Larmer runs.
Oh, that was lovely.
But chaos in the French defence.
Yeah.
Like no organisation.
Oh, no. And then you've got a brilliant line like Larmer, which takes guys away from what they're supposed to be doing in the first place anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's the great thing about that loop move. There's so many different. I always say there's so many. It creates so many different points of uncertainty for the defence.
Big time.
You know, if you don't track the passer, he runs in like Darce did that time. If you don't track the loop, Sexton runs in like he did that time. And if you don't track the runner like Larmer, there's like 5 or 6 different decision points a defence has to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the attack.
Yeah, and any time a defence has to make a decision, it can make a mistake.
That was Johnny's
first try in a long time.
Yeah, 30 games.
A couple of huge carries here set up this one. You Furlong first, then you Byrne, then you've not Byrne, Ryan, and then Aki puts in a big carry.
Yeah.
And that's got the French defence all over the shop. I'd say Gerardo would be disappointed with his effort there.
That was a good muscular effort from Mr. Conan.
He had a lot of work to do still.
He got the outside shoulder and then drove through him.
Well, he was kind of...
He had a very good game. So
I was impressed with him.
Yeah, he had a very good game. And as a result, had been moved away from number 8 into the flanker position. I thought Stander had a brilliant game, one of his best games around.
That'd be confirmation bias with you, Jane.
It probably would be, but I do think he's a better flanker than he is a number 8.
He's a tough man, is all I'll say.
Oh, he's a hard man. He's certainly a hard man.
He's very.
If you watch the full kind of series of phases back, Conan gets involved. This is his 4th involvement.
Yeah. He's very good at tackling with his face, PJ Stander.
This is just a...
Keith Earls in the line-out.
Yeah, that was an interesting...
And that was the second time. They tried one in the first half and it didn't come off.
He's a grand burst of acceleration.
They do a shot from behind, and watch the French scrum half, who's kind of playing a bit sweeper, but he's covering that wing, and he has no idea where Earls is, and then he realises, oh shit, he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Stockdale was quiet, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
He seems to be... He's either banging in the tries or he's nowhere.
Now watch the French winger. He loses Earls completely here.
And the prop steps in and creates the whole look.
Yeah. But only now does the winger realise, shit, that's my man. Or the scrum half who's playing.
He's got that burst of acceleration that none of the forwards obviously have. And once he gets shifting, there's no one catching him.
He's really, really quick.
Isn't he?
Really quick.
A fair bit of pace in the back three with him and Larmer. If not height. And Stockdale as well. Stockdale's stupidly quick, deceptively quick because of his long legs.
He's quick for a big man.
Yeah. One thing I noticed with the match was how little Murray kicked. I can only remember a couple of kicks by him.
It's probably to do with the opposition.
I think it was actually with the position on the pitch.
Yeah. When you're in the opposition 22, why kick the ball?
Exactly.
Actually, there's something that pisses me off. Something rotten. Now I know he did it under penalty advantage a good few times yesterday, but kicking into the 22 is just... It's such an easy defend. Like, all you got to do is catch the ball and you have a mark and everybody has to leave you alone.
I mean, cross kicking, do you?
Yeah, any kind of kicking into the 22, unless it's a grubber.
No, right, I know what you mean.
Like they do the cross kicks under penalty advantage, and that's kind of fair enough because you're coming back for the penalty if it doesn't work out. But under any other circumstances, it's just
We did it on a knock on, and we actually kicked away possession then.
exactly.
So I think it was like they must have saw the arm going out and thought it was a penalty rather than a knock on.
Mhm.
And
Like-
when he kicked it away.
When you're going to do that, make sure it lands just outside the 22. Like that's what you're going for. And if you're that close to the 22, don't bloody kick it. You know, it's
Although from where I was sitting, the height that Sexton was putting on the ball, that they were going above the stadium. You know what I mean? They're absolutely enormous kicks up into the swirling breeze. I mean, it was as you said, it was 4 seasons in one yesterday.
indeed.
Yeah. So actually, that was you're just talking about Earl's like his acceleration. That was his 30th try for Ireland, so it brings him up level with Tommy Bowe.
Tommy Bowe!
Still behind Dricko, though. I think Dricko's on 46 tries. So
He's
That's
on a
right,
ridiculous
yeah.
number of tries, yeah.
Yeah.
He holds the Six Nations record. Does he still hold the Six
Oh, he
Nations
does,
record?
Yeah.
Of all countries, I mean.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Well, we turn our attention to the other games. Scotland just didn't turn up, did they? Well, until Hamish Watson came on.
He was great.
Yeah, he was
Jesus.
superb. Yeah, he was really, really good. Yeah.
I just really enjoyed watching him. I just thought if they can get him the ball enough,
If they could-
he'll score.
Have 13 or 14 other fellas like him.
But unfortunately, they did. It was a bit like us. They did a lot of the hard work, and they were the better team in the second part of the game, but they just couldn't get the job done. You know, they had plenty of opportunities. They had, it was a tight enough game.
I think Wales always had them at arm's length.
Yeah,
I think so, but
I always had that feeling that Wales had another gear they could go into.
Wales
Possibly.
Wales have won the 4 matches obviously, but they haven't scored a bonus point
That's
yet.
right.
You know, so they're
they'll
winning
get
games.
3 for a slam though if they beat us.
Well, okay, but like they are winning games. They're not putting sides away. You know,
No.
they're just doing enough kind of thing.
Well, that's all you have to do to get a Grand Slam. So they've got home advantage next week.
Obviously England annihilated Italy. Italy just didn't turn up today.
I think that they turned up all right, but it didn't make it pose the odds bit of difference. I think England were really good. Cocken Thing had a good game. A lot of England players actually had really
Manu
good
was
games.
very good as well.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Manu was very
Yeah,
good.
he was excellent as well. Looks like he's going to stay with Leicester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
England were excellent. They were really, really good.
I just go back to him. I presume he wants to remain playing for England
Yeah, I guess so.
because they don't like they're kind of like us. They don't
Yeah.
pick players based outside England.
No,
they don't.
it's more strictly enforced there. It's there's no exceptions. For us, there have been. Johnny Sexton being the obvious one.
Gordon Murphy.
Well, that's going back to the
Black and
19th
white
century.
days.
Yeah.
I'd say if Eddie Jones really needed a player, he'd be allowed. I think the RFU would be similar to the IRFU in that they don't really write it down,
Well, look at
or if they do, they hint the piece of paper.
Stephen Armitage. Everybody wanted to see Stephen Armitage play for England when he was over there, and wasn't happening unless he signed. He re-signed for Toulon. That was him gone. For the last World Cup, he was on top of his game coming up to the last World Cup, and also England really needed a 7.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. You're probably
So
right there.
I think it is a hard and fast rule.
Would Stephen Armitage have fallen foul of England's every so often obsession with size? Because he's only 4'2".
Yeah, he's 4'2" wide as well.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, obviously Ireland played France at a few different levels over the weekend.
Yeah.
The under-20s had a fantastic victory down in Cork on Friday
Brilliant game
evening.
of rugby as well. It has
It
to
was
be
a
said.
great game to
Brilliant
watch.
game of rugby. Yeah, a really, really good game to watch, and they won the championship.
Yeah.
So
There's some really good young players coming through. I'm not sure if they're superstars, but they're
and
like
good.
that
Good,
scrum half Carty Casey, is it?
yeah, Casey.
He's
yeah.
a fine player.
There was a lot of good. There was a
Your
lot of
man's
good players.
Wycherley, the brother of
Yeah,
the one
Josh
Fineen.
Wycherley.
Josh
Yeah,
Wycherley,
yeah.
yeah.
Fineen Wycherley's brother. You've also got obviously
Harry
Harry
Byrne.
Byrne and David Hawkshaw missed it. French came in. He's normally a winger and played very, very well. There's a lot of good players in that team. I mean, Scott Penny, obviously, back row. Hodnett looks like a real. Do you know he reminds me so much of Anthony Foley?
Yeah.
The guy, the number 8, the red scrum captain, plays a lot like Foley. I think he's really, really good. And I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there was
A lot of Munster lads.
A lot of Munster lads, yeah. I
Which is great.
They'll fall off the radar soon enough.
There's five,
If they don't,
five
if they don't pass their Africana leaving cert.
There's 5 in the back line.
Yeah, there was, yeah. But you look at guys, and if you look at that team, it was a team that was actually, Ryan Baird missed most of the season, only came back there onto the bench. Hawkshaw, Harry Byrne. Those are guys who'd be considered, nailed on starters. So they still went out and beat the world champions without guys, including their captain, who'd be considered nailed on starters, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And they dug out a very hard victory. It wasn't that they just got their nose in front and they stayed that way.
No, they worked their arse off.
That match kind of oscillated between them being ahead and being behind, and France coming back at them.
Yeah,
it wasn't
weird.
Yeah, it wasn't, and by any means, kind of just take the lead and continue on, and hold out to the end. Like it was.
Yeah, no, it was just a really good game of rugby. If you were in neutral, you'd have enjoyed that match.
Yeah, unfortunately, I went to the ladies' match. They were murdered again.
They were, yeah. They were kind of competitive up until it was around, what was it? It was 17-all or something around at one point, and then France just moved ahead, just smoothly went through the gears. There's some lovely players that French team will have.
Yeah, there are
really good players.
I know they're not actually professional, but they're a lot closer to it. They're talking about it as far as I know. England are actually professional, so France, they've a lot more at that. I'm not going to say at that level, but in the women's game at the level of evolution it's at, so it's not fully professional. It makes a big difference to England and France having so many players and such a big population.
Yeah, and look,
but I think the one thing that the Irish team really lacks is pace. Is out and out pace.
I'd say skills.
Possibly, but there's no creativity in the middle.
Those girls are learning the game as on the go. Like there was one, I read an interview with one lady, and she had played 3 matches in England, 3 ever matches, and she got capped for Ireland then.
Well, that was Lindsay Peat though.
I don't care who. I don't care. Like you couldn't be just because you're good at basketball or GAA doesn't necessarily make you a very good rugby player.
In her case, it was basketball and GAA.
Okay, but like my point being though, Dave, that she
is
learning
it is a fast track process,
and they can't continue like what they're doing now. They're pumping loads of money into kids, into minis and kids, because they need to get kids to learn the skills at 10 years of age, not at 18 or 20 years of age, when they're coming into playing provincial rugby or national team rugby,
But I still say that you look at you've got a winger like Alison Miller who's a good she is a good footballer, like, but she doesn't have pace, and there's no pace in the rest of the back line. I mean, you look at the French team, look at the pace they have. And part of it's speed of thought as well, Jay.
It's the skills that when they're getting and receiving a pass, the pass is behind them that they have to check. So whatever momentum they've built up is checked because they've had to stop to catch the ball and readjust.
Yeah, no, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that point. What I'm saying is on top of it, we don't have pace.
Of course, yeah, but it's compounded.
And you got players like Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe who's off playing sevens who has pace, or Hannah Tyrrell who has pace. And those guys aren't available for the Six Nations. And I think that's... You can argue that they're going for the Olympics and that's whatever, but I still think we need to do something in the Six Nations because kids aren't going watching the sevens. So they aren't. It's on at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not on TV. There was 6,500 in Donnybrook. That's what they're watching.
Yeah.
So get the players who will at least excite and inspire the next generation. Actually put them in front. It's like, what's the slogan? Can't see, can't be. Let them see them.
For sure.
Let them see those players.
So anyway, turning our attention to next week's match, we have an opportunity to deny Wales the Grand Slam, but England could
gift England the championship.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Do we deny Wales but give it to England?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't actually care about England winning or Wales winning. What I want is Ireland to win. If as a byproduct of that, England win the Six Nations or Ireland win the Six Nations, that's fine. But I really want Ireland to win because this is a really good test. It's a really good Welsh team. It's well coached. It's like ourselves. I'd say it's probably at a similar point in its development towards the World Cup. So it'll be a really good measure of where we are. And then there's the element, of course, that Joe Schmidt has never won a game never won a Six Nations match in Cardiff.
But he's never lost the last game of the Six
That's
Nations.
But it'd be nice for him to go.
One of those records is going.
It'd be nice for him to leave with a victory in his back pocket in terms of Six Nations. So, I mean,
I think Warren Gatland would like to go on a
well,
slam.
see, that's the other side of it. There's two things. So you got two coaches who are hoping to leave on the championship, but in reality, I don't think Scotland have any hope whatsoever against.
No, they've just lost a few more players, and they've now got 4,346 injured players. The one thing you have to
They
rue.
could play them all at the same time, and they still wouldn't beat England.
Well, the one thing you have to rue is that we let England get a bonus point in the first game. That we didn't get one ourselves, because if that had gone a try the other way, if we'd have scored one and England hadn't, we would have had a bonus point and they wouldn't. Then in the next game, didn't get a bonus point, got 3 tries against Scotland. There's 3. We'd be actually up with Wales.
Yeah.
And the 2 would be going for the championship. So even with 2 of those things, or maybe even one of those things, we'd have some hope. With 2, we'd have a big hope.
Yeah. As it stands, I don't think we've much hope.
No.
But so what? We still have to go out and play on Saturday, and
there could be massive slip in the shower itis in the English team. They could all slip in the shower on Friday night and get food poisoning. And
I wonder how big you think that the English team shower actually is, because it would want to be huge and encompass a lot of players for England to have to put out a team that Scotland could beat.
I totally agree, but nobody thought we were going to beat Munster in Croke Park.
I did.
Apart from us.
And
Anyway.
Michael Cheika, if you remember, Jason, I was watching. Do you remember Michael Cheika saying, he said that, what was it he said? Because I was watching it today actually. He said, I know a lot of people aren't giving us a lot of hope, but I know our supporters believe and we believe, and that's enough. Do you remember that? That interview you did with him? So yeah, I think we all believe. I'd be certainly very inspired.
Well, I hope there's a few Michael Cheikas in Scotland at the moment, and you just never know. You just never know.
Yep. So, it just goes to show kind of sort of poor Scotland are. They've only won 1 of their 4 matches,
Yeah,
likelihood
that's
is they're
pretty
going to
poor,
end up 1 out of 5 matches.
They might end up relegated
Well,
in
they're
the imaginary world.
the only thing is that they're not going to finish behind Italy. But if France beat Italy, they're finishing behind France, pretty sure. So
How many points
they're
has
going
Scotland got?
6.
6.
So have France. So they both got to win. Yeah, France.
Of course, yeah.
Scotland got
Beat Italy.
beaten by France and they beat Italy. So yeah, that's where the points are coming from.
You wonder if Rob Kearney will be fit, and B, whether Joe will look at other options there.
I've a feeling that a lot of players are going to drift back into this team over the week. I just, a lot of the people that you're mentioning that in the earlier thing where you're saying about the backups, a lot of those backups are going to be back up and running. I mean, Toner won't be there. The few that are going to miss out, Henshaw, I think he's touch and go.
Is he?
Levy,
Levy, he must.
Levy, similar. I think he's touch and go. It could be a week too soon.
I don't know what the story is with Josh.
No, he could.
Because
Nobody
they
knows
took him
yet.
off after 20 minutes, and you don't normally do that unless it's a
Serious.
real thing, you know. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, I'd say if Rob's fit, he'll start.
Yeah,
I'd say it's going to be a pretty full strength team.
Yeah.
oh, it would be
I mean, it
going
might be interesting-
gangbusters.
just on that note, it might be interesting to see what happens in Wales, because Liam Williams had to go off and look
Yeah.
pretty shaky
Did
going
he
off.
break his arm?
I don't know what happened to him, but he looked bad. And he's been the best Welsh player this season. He's been in superb form. They're not short of players who can play there at full back, in fairness. I mean, they have Lee Halfpenny.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they wanted to, they could put Dan Bigger or Anscombe there and put the other one in the other position. So they're not exactly bereft.
No, it's amazing though that the Welsh can up it. Like, you know, we see those players playing fairly consistently in the Pro 14. And yes, you've got your Alan Wynne-Jones and your Jonathan Davies that would get on any Irish team, and you know, but
Who always give it 100%. Yeah.
But like there's other fellas that you just go, how is he playing so well in a red jersey, and really doesn't seem to put it in as much
Warren Gatland's no mug.
No,
He
absolutely.
gets a lot of slagging,
But
and
like, you know your man with the dreads?
Mhm.
Josh Navidi.
Navidi.
Jeff Navidi, like, you'd say he's a good rugby player.
Mhm.
But he's, you know,
good plus a bit when he plays for Wales.
like, he becomes an excellent rugby player playing for Wales. Whereas you wouldn't have said that, seen him playing for Cardiff, that he's the standout back row player in their team. He isn't, like.
Well, he plays. Nick Williams is usually at 8 for Cardiff, so I think he moves around a bit. But like Tipperich, he's a fabulous player. You know, he's a,
Yeah, but I'd put him in the Alan
he's-
Jones.
Yeah, I've never watched a game where Justin Tipperich hasn't been at least really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with Alan Wynne, and it's the same with, you know, there's Dan Biggers, another guy who always seems to really
Well,
put
the
it in.
current out half.
Yeah, Anscombe is a guy I wouldn't.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
would Anscombe get in? Like, would he be better than Rothburn? In your
God,
book?
no, I wouldn't have thought so.
Do you know
no.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, he's
I don't know.
so.
yeah.
He's so. Like, yeah, sure, he'd pass mustard.
he
and
can do
get,
plenty of things
Fine,
Rothburn can't do, and
fine.
vice versa.
Okay, maybe I'm a bit flip, but
Well, he
but
can't
my-
win European Cups, can he?
no, but
That's
the
a
thing
bit
is,
more than.
But the
more
thing
to it
is,
than
though, that he plays exceptionally well when he plays for Wales. You know, and you wouldn't think that when you look at him playing for his club that he has that ability in him.
No, but what Gatland has done, or seems to be able to do, and it's hard to know because, you know, the Welsh attitude to the Pro 14 and indeed Europe, the players play much better for Wales than they do in.
Yeah, but okay, I
for
can
the
understand.
club. But just
So
to
go on.
say, what Gatland seems to be able to do is take good but functional players,
Hadley Parks, cough.
Hadley Parks, Anscombe even, guys like that, and turn them into, you know, top class international players. And he has. I mean, he's a very, very good coach. You can say what you like about him as a manager or as, you know, as a media individual, but as a coach, for coaching a rugby team, he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
He really, really is.
absolutely. Yeah, and you know, it is just frightening when you see how good he can kind of get the best out of players. Like, that's obviously is a sign of a very good coach. You know, but like I still just can't get my head around how when we see those players playing for their clubs, and like, you know, you can kind of the Welsh have a bit of a disdain for Pro 14.
Some of them do.
Some of them do, but maybe I'm talking more about their fans in general. Like, they don't have a high opinion of it. But like the
Divides opinion.
But the European Cup is supposedly the pinnacle of the club game. So it's not like that they'll say, oh well, like, you know, you can't sort of turn around and say, oh, the Irish teams don't send over their strong teams. You know, why should I go watch my local region when the Irish teams don't care about the Pro 14 because they don't send over their Sextons and their O'Driscolls and all the rest? Fine, but it's the European Cup they've done jack shit in as well. Like,
They've done work.
they've done worse.
They've done significantly worse in the European Cup than they have in the Pro 14.
Absolutely.
And of course, the answer to that, like what you were saying, is, oh, well, that's that, because you don't need to. You know, why send over, you know, fine wine when a box of Tesco's Best will do the job, you know. But the thing is, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because of the artificial nature of the regional system in Wales, that the Welsh player has never felt that, or certain Welsh players have certainly never felt that urge to bleed for their region, that they might for their club or they might for their country. It's it or for the national team. I think there's an element there.
It is a strange one because if they, you know, just say taking Jamie Roberts, who by the way would have got into the Alan Wynne Jones.
I don't think
in
he
his
would have.
day.
We
No.
saw him play. Remember, we saw him playing for Cardiff one day.
Yeah, okay.
And Leinster put 40 odd or nearly 50
Yeah, he
points
didn't
on
turn
him.
it. He didn't.
And he didn't do
break
it.
a sweat. Yeah.
Because we were saying there was. Remember, if you recall, there was two
Warburton,
players, Warburton and him, and we weren't impressed with them at the time.
Yeah.
And then we went back and watched the match, and whilst we
Warburton
still
was
weren't, we were
everywhere.
even less impressed with Roberts. Warburton was brilliant. He was at the reason we couldn't see him was because he was at the bottom of everything, bleeding for Cardiff.
For sure.
Whereas
That's
Roberts phoned it in.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah,
phoned
yeah,
it
that's
in.
true. Actually, I'd forgotten about that. But okay, but there are some players that do go away and they leave and they play over in England or in France, and they do put in a performance. Like, do you know what I mean? They're professional athletes at the end of the day. That's how they make their living, by somebody paying them bucks to play rugby, regardless of whether that's playing for Wales or playing for a club, regardless of whether it's the Ospreys, Harlequins, or Racing Metro.
Yeah, but that's the question. What is it in the Welsh player psyche that creates that situation? But all we can say is that every single one of them, when they're playing for Wales, is 100%.
Yeah.
All the time. So that's what makes Wales very different. That's why Joe Schmidt hasn't won in Cardiff against Wales. Because they're a bloody good side, but a lot of really good players that are well coached.
Well, hopefully, I'm making the trip over, so hopefully the Joe can come up trumps for us this time. I'll be the one shouting really loud that you can hear on the telly, right?
I see Gatlin starting to ramp it up a little bit. He's the usual coming out in the press and saying the Welsh players are jealous of the Irish players, and I suppose to a point that they are. He did previously say that they hated each other.
Yeah.
So he's kind of, I can understand why they might be jealous with the success that the.
Well, that's exactly it. If I were if I were the coach of a Welsh team, whether it's Scotland or not, I'd really hope that my players were jealous of the Irish players after what happened last year. Because that's what you want. You want professional players. You want them to strive to be better. So he chose his words well to cause a reaction, but he's actually 100% right. And I'd hope, if I were a Welsh fan, I'd want my players to be jealous of the Irish players.
Yeah. So, do we have any questions from any?
We have one question
listeners?
in actually. Yeah.
Any members of the audience?
Dara asks. He's saying just what we were talking about earlier. Ireland to beat England's points difference, or Scotland to beat England. Which one is more likely? He reckons both are both equally daft propositions.
Completely.
There's no chance of us, unless Wales somehow get 3 players sent off in the first 10 minutes.
That's about the only chance. Yeah.
There's no chance of us doing the points difference whatsoever. Our only hope is if Scotland beat England. However, there's next to no chance of that happening either. So
1983.
1983 is a long time ago. They can put an extra verse into Flower Scotland
if
they want, but it's not going to happen.
There is not a player on either team that was born the last time Scotland won in
Twickenham, really?
Twickenham, I'm pretty sure. I haven't checked that one, but I mean, that doesn't make them 30 a lot, 36. So
Yeah.
There isn't.
No, there wouldn't be. No. Jesus.
It's frightening, isn't it?
It is.
So anyway, I think that's pretty much it. So thanks very much, and thanks a million for watching. Cheers.